Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, good afternoon, Dana. How are you?
I'm good. How have you been?
Good. Hey, have you got anything new going on this week?
Well, other than the fact that you and I are leaving on Friday to go to London.
Yeah, I have one question for you. It's called ball gown. Do you have your ball gown?
I actually just picked mine up from being altered. So, yes. Have you got yours?
Oh, yes. Just got to figure out where it's going to fit in the suitcase.
I'm just trying to figure out who can do our hair while we're there.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. I got my assistant working on that.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good.
The hard part is knowing how much time we'll have to actually do it. You know, we've got to get all this important stuff done.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting. So this week, gosh, I just got a lot of stuff to knock out before we're gone.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to teach business planning on Tuesday, and then I'm going to come back Wednesday. Well, actually, I don't think I come back till Thursday. Come back Thursday, and then I'll figure out London. I don't figure out anything too far in advance unless it needs a ball gown. Then I will, of course. But other than that, That's the only planning I've done so far. So super excited today. You have a couple of guests there with you in Lexington. You want to introduce them?
Yes, I do. I'm very excited. So today we have some guests. We're going to talk about Airbnbs, and these are my business partners and also some of my best friends. So I'm glad to have them on. So we have Josh Shepler and Heath Green, and I'm going to let's go ahead and kind of let them tell a little bit about themselves.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. How they entered the real estate world and how you guys met and all that good stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah, so my name is Josh Shepler. Thank you guys for having us today. We're super excited to be here. I am a licensed realtor with Keller Williams. I've been in the business for about 15 years and in property management, selling real estate, kind of doing it all. And we've just recently launched a couple months ago our Airbnb short-term division.
Yeah, so thanks for having us, guys. My name's Heath Green. So we actually have a separate brokerage as well, Kentucky Life Property Management. So not only do we have our license with Keller Williams, but we also have a separate brokerage where we handle and do all property management. I've actually been in the property management industry for about 5 years now. Came on board with Josh, left my full-time marketing job, and decided to jump in this world of real estate investing.
That's awesome. So you had the property management company before you had the Airbnb division?
Yes, for about 10 years doing the property management company and been in real estate a little over 15 years.
Awesome. Great. Well, we're excited to have you.
Yeah.
So let's start off. Tell us a little bit about when did you get interested in the Airbnb and why, and what's your long-term plan with that business?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. Actually, we've had the demand from clients and our traditional investors for a couple of years. But I am a firm believer in getting all the system and processes ready to go. I know that you aren't supposed to wait until everything's perfect, but I'm a firm believer that if somebody is handing over their investment to you, their real estate asset, that you have to know what you're doing. So we didn't want to be too premature in jumping into that. So we waited for about a year to a year and a half to make sure our systems and processes and really watch the market to make sure it was going to be something profitable for the investors that we already managed, and to see that, we could excel in it.
So did you have a client ask you do y'all do Airbnb, or how'd that work?
Yeah. And it's actually in our market here in Lexington, it really hasn't, within the past 3 years, it's really caught on. In 2016, we had 1,500 guest stays. In 2017, we had 27,000. And 18, we had around 40,000. So it's progressively gotten a lot of demand. So our clients are really catching on. So we thought we better be getting on this train.
Oh, that's awesome.
So why do y'all think, though, that people are staying in Airbnbs versus hotels?
Well, I think it's a great question. You all talk about it a lot on your podcast, too, is we're living in this fourth industrial revolution where it's all about technology and on-demand instant gratification. Over 60% of all the people that are using a short-term rental platform, specifically the Airbnb platform, are millennials. Mm-hmm. So they want things that are able to live like a local, immerse themselves into a diverse city where they're not just staying in a hotel, but they have all these amenities. They have self-automation on self-check-in, and they can truly go as their leisure. And with dietary restrictions and things like that, they're able to bring their lifestyle into a new city for a short amount of time rather than adapting into a hotel room that might not meet their needs.
Yeah, and it's super easy. I mean, they want automation. They want to be able to come and go as they please. So Airbnb offers that. Well, short-term vacation rentals offers it. Yeah. Airbnb is just a platform.
Yeah, I know she said Airbnb. We have 19 vacation rentals ourselves and about to build 12 more. And it's interesting you'd say that about the millennials. Do you find that because I have 2 in Texas, which kind of just blew my mind. We had a ranch that was just sitting there, and I hate when things don't make money. So I decided one day, since we have the vacation rentals in Missouri, that we would just make our ranch that. So we've made both houses now on the ranch that. So I'm just curious, doesn't it ever kind of make you wonder, like, who comes to Lexington? You know, I would say, like, who comes to Denton and what are they there for? I mean, that just is so intriguing to me. And I'm always asking my manager, like, why are they here? What are they doing? It's weddings and things like that. What do you find?
So I think it's been the most eye-opening and interesting part of launching this division to actually see how many people are coming to Lexington. Like you said, we don't even know the attractions and the things that are offered in our own city. Mm-hmm. And in doing this and launching this business, it's really opened up a lot more opportunities. And for us to add value to even our real estate clients and friends and family to say, hey, this is actually going on around us. Mm-hmm. Because we have now a better pulse on the market to see who's actually coming here and why.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like things you wouldn't even think of, Linda, like here in Kentucky, where you came to take your family to the Ark. I mean, like there's...
Oh, yes. They stay all the way in Lexington for that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because trust me, I drove around there afterwards thinking, man, this would be a hot spot for Airbnbs. But the city is like, I mean, the territory around there is like, nothing.
But isn't it funny though? I mean, think about when we did our podcast with Mo Anderson, she was leaving to fly here just to go to the Ark with her family. And then, I mean, it's like there are things like that in every city that we take for granted and we don't even think about.
And we have a huge one is the Bourbon Trail. People are coming in from around the world, from other countries, to go on this Bourbon Trail.
And I think too here in, central Kentucky as well, we have such a horse industry that is very driven, from the horse park here where the United States Federation is. So there's all kinds of those kind of events besides just horse racing that people don't even realize. So it's been very interesting, but it's also cool. Lexington's basically a college town. And over the past couple of years, our mayor's done an excellent job in redeveloping our city and making it more of a tourist attraction as well. And we have been getting an influx of guests even staying in an Airbnb that are relocating to the area. They're wanting to stay in a place, or a hospital is allowing their candidates to stay in a place so they can get familiar with an area before making a purchase on a home or a place to rent.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, well, now that I think about it, it's interesting you said millennials, though, because, of course, Branson brings the older, probably the boomers, actually, to be honest with you. But I find that it's extended families. I've often thought, okay, what's going to happen when the baby boomers are like, not doing this? But, I kind of think because they've done it generationally, the families are coming in there because our cabins are pretty big. We have 2 and 3 families come and stay in a cabin. I would hope that the younger generation that's kind of hungry for that good, clean family fun that they can do would keep doing Branson. But it's interesting because I want to say that we had our cabins during a downturn, and I think what'll happen is they'll stop flying places and they start driving places when money gets tight. What do you guys think?
100% with that. And that's what I tell our investors all the time is when times get tough, people travel within their state or within a short driving distance. So just like we just previously talked about, there's so many attractions and things going on in cities across the United States that locals don't even realize what's going on. But when money gets hard and time gets tough, people look for other resources that are affordable and that they can go to. So instead of driving 12 hours or flying to the beach, they're driving an hour to 3 hours to something that is closer, that's still family fun, that's an experience that their child is going to remember forever, but it's much more cost effective. And you like you just said, you have 2 to 3 families that are staying in one cabin. How much would that be if you had to go stay in a hotel room?
Oh, and triple. Yeah, and eat at restaurants every night because you can't cook in them. Yeah, correct. So true. So what do y'all own some, and then do you rent some for people? What's the mixture of that?
Yeah, so currently we self-manage for all real estate investors. We don't currently personally own any, but we're helping Dana with her newest venture for passive income. She just purchased a short-term rental that we are currently renovating to turn into an Airbnb for our market here in Lexington.
So I know you have a magical formula that you kind of tell, which I said I'm dying to know, because I couldn't tell you. I think when I've been on podcasts before, on wealth building podcasts, sometimes they'll ask me for the rate of return for ours. And, I don't really, I know they cash flow. I know they pay for themselves. I know they make money, but I don't always figure out a formula. So if somebody was looking to do this, what's that formula that they would use, or what did you help Dana with to decide if it was a good deal or not?
Yeah, and before you say that, I'm going to share one thing really fast, because I can remember, Linda, about maybe 2 years ago, you and Jimmy came and taught a wealth building class in the region. And I don't know if you remember this, but afterwards, I can remember, I think I said to you, I felt like so down on myself because I didn't have any rental property. Mm-hmm. And I had been dumping all my cash into purchasing these market centers or in investing in, offices. And so it was funny because when we were talking about, I had been learning so much from Josh and Heath around the Airbnb world. And one of my biggest questions was, what would be the benefit in doing this? Because it seemed like a lot of upfront cash compared to just buying a rental property and having somebody stay in there for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And then what I really want you all to explain is, like, breaking that down into the difference. The ROI was drastically different, massively different, even though you have a little bit more cash up front. After you do it one time, then you can pull out and take that one to go to the next one.
So we were seeing, on average with our traditional side of the business, a property that may rent for $1,100 a month, that we could convert it into an Airbnb short-term rental, and that same property could generate $2,500 to $2,800 a month. So that's pretty significant. And then we figured out, you go into this property, how much cash do you have to put into the property? What do you have to do? And that all depends on the property. Locating a property either that is ready to go, meaning that we just walk into it and have to furnish it, or you find a really good deal and you rehab it. And that's what so many of our investors are doing. We're locating properties that are in areas or properties that, people haven't touched in years, going in, putting $20,000, $30,000 into them, turning around and then renting them out for $3,000, $4,000 a month.
So do you want to use, just because y'all know the numbers and it's easy, do you want to walk through kind of the one that I just did, and that way you can kind of say what? Yeah. Do you have those just so you can see? Because to get to the 15%.
We're seeing, on average, even on the traditional side, an 8% return on investment if you're going to do long term. And then with our investors that we've been working with on the Airbnb side, we're looking at 12 to 15%. And that, that all depends on how ready the property is. But we've got it down to is a 1 bedroom, a 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom. On average, the 2 bedrooms are renting better, even across the board on the entire platform.
Better than 3 bedrooms?
On average, yes.
Wow.
Because just for the simple fact of that's your everyday person coming into the city for a concert, a conference. They're going to see their kids at the University of Kentucky. There's a lot of people traveling for everyday things versus vacations. Because I think when we think vacation rentals, we think they're coming to vacation. But traveling for all purposes, and those purposes really are where you're going to make your most money. That guest is coming. We have traveling nurses. We have people that are visiting their family that's in the hospital. Our properties, such as the one that Dana just purchased, is within walking distance of the arena. It's in the walking distance of the hospital. So it can serve a multitude of purposes. So
and to kind of go off of that too is the way we kind of do our model, and we can discuss this a little bit more in depth, but we allow 1 night stays. So compared to other traditional vacation rentals where you're renting, let's say 4 to 5 days, or weekends are always 2 to 3 nights, we're able to do it where we manage the turnover of 1 night stays. So some of our properties on weekends that you have to rent 2 to 3 nights, but during the week we allow 1 night stays because we're able to do that. So that opens you up to allow your occupancy rate to go from 50 to 60% to 75 to 95%.
Just by doing the 1 night?
Just by doing the 1 night stays. Because you have to think, you have people that are traveling from, let's say, Minneapolis, they're traveling through Lexington to get to Charleston or something. they want to stop randomly and they self-book that day because they're going to be in the Lexington area, get some sleep, get up in the morning and go. So that random Wednesday night that's unbooked, that's an extra X amount for your property. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, that's so smart on your guys' part, because to be honest with you, we got away from doing just the one nights because of partiers. But if you take the weekend out of it, then you take the part. I mean, who wants to have a frat party on Wednesday night too much? You know.
And we also 4 hours. We put a no local rule actually for that. So we do our best to stay against locals, because most of the time locals are renting it for bachelorette parties and parties, basically.
Is that for any rental, or is that just for the one nights?
That's just for the one nights, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so Heath, do you want to run down kind of just the formula, or do you want me to kind of run through it?
Yeah, well, we're looking, we can put it on the show notes too. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Just to kind of give them like a formula. So
basically you start out with the value of your property, whether that's, the house is worth, let's do easy math for example. Let's say the property that you're getting ready to purchase is worth $100,000. And then you're going to take whatever your purchase price is next. So $90,000. So basically you have $10,000 of equity, because you're able to purchase the property at 90. It's going to appraise and be valued at 100.
Okay.
Then you have your down payment. Let's say that's $20,000, and then we call that the total out of pocket. And that's your down payment, your closing cost, all of that. So then we're going to look at your mortgage. So let's say that mortgage is $700 a month, and that includes obviously your principal, interest, taxes, insurance. And then we look at what is your lease going to be on that property, and that obviously in the traditional side is going to be different. But Airbnb is just your total bookings over the year. So whatever that number may be.
And I always say be very conservative. So kind of look at your market, see what your average rates are that are kind of comparable to your property. Always go on the conservative end. That's just kind of my mentality anyways. And then that way you at the end of the day, you get a better return. But I always say around 50 to 60% is a great average. And then lowball yourself. So if you're setting up a property, let's say, that's going to rent from a range of $90 to $150. I always say go
dollars a night.
$90, $150 a night. And the thing to think about too is that is just the booking rate. That's not the cleaning fee. That's not taxes. That's not service fees. That is just a flat booking rate. So that property is basically renting from $90 to $150 per night plus fees and taxes and cleaning. Right. So let's say you're going to say $100, and then you would use that times your average occupancy of 50 to 60%, and that would be your conservative number.
So the 50 to 60% is of the 365-day year?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, it's different on the short-term side. You're going to have an initial investment where you're going to have to furnish the property. Yeah. So on top of your out-of-pocket expenses for the down payment and your closing costs, you're going to be looking at probably $10,000 to $15,000 to furnish it for a 3-bedroom property. So you do have that upfront expense on that. So when you look to see how much it's going to cash flow for the year, then you would divide that by. You would divide your cash flow for the year divided by how much you put into it walking into it, how much cash that you had to put into it. That's your down payment plus if you have to furnish or you have to do repairs. And what we're seeing across the board is anywhere between 12 to 15%. And that's because we're able to get so much more rent out of the properties versus renting them long term.
So like for the one that we're doing right now, this was the easiest math that we did. So the purchase price was $185. It appraised at $210 as it sits though. I put 20% down, so that was $37,000. So financed $148,000 at a 5% interest rate. Just say the principal and interest payment would be at around $1,000 a month. So that would be around $12,000 a year. We put $28,000 in it for like the cosmetic updates and
any capital improvements.
Yeah, any capital improvements basically. So total out of pocket was $65,000.
Is that with furniture and down payment and everything?
Yep, that includes everything.
That's the cash spent.
Total cash out of pocket. So then we projected on the low side a 62 to 72% occupancy rate. So if we took 65% average, let's say that's 20 nights out of the month that it would rent. And if we, on a really conservative side, we think it'll be more than this, but let's just say that it averaged nightly rented at $90 a night. That would be a monthly revenue of basically right around $1,800. So then you take your annual revenue, which that would be right around $22,000, and then minus your projected annual cost, right? Your
Right.
P&I, which would be the $12,000. Any expenses,
which was included in this case, management fee, and most people have them professionally managed. So you're walking away at the end of the year with your net
of right around $10,000. So then when we took that
divided by the 65,
that's how you get, which is your total out of pocket. That's how you get the 15% ROI.
So, a couple of questions. So what do y'all charge on the management fees for VRBOs and Airbnbs?
So our management fee is 20%. That's a flat fee, and that's 20% on the nightly booking rate.
And that's really good because normally it's up to, people are paying as much as 45%, and the numbers just don't work if you have to do that.
So for our market, the 20% seems to be working very well. We charge it on, like I said, the flat booking rate. So if it booked for $100, we charge 20% of that 100, so we would get $20. For platform purposes, Airbnb charges the lowest service fee amount than any platform. So their service fee is 3% per booking. So that would be $3. So our company would get $20, Airbnb would get $3, and you, the owner or the investor, would get $77.
Yeah. And I'm even noticing on some of them that are managing, they're charging even like one person in our area, and we noticed we were kind of doing some research to figure out where we were price wise and all that stuff, and they were charging another 6% on top of the Airbnb's 3%, so they were at a total of 9% to the consumer.
Yep, and then that's one thing too. So the way Airbnb works is when a guest checks out, depending on the city and the state. Like, for example, the city of Lexington and the state of Kentucky have an agreement with Airbnb. So all taxes are paid for and remitted at the time of booking by the guest, which makes it so much easier for the real estate investor for tax purposes. Once that guest checks in, all of that money is remitted to the state and city local levels. It basically breaks down. So we make sure that at the end of the day, there's a booking rate, there's the taxes and the fees, there's a service fee that's different to the guest than the host. So Airbnb charges a 3 to 10% service fee to the guest and a 3% flat fee to the host. So there's two separate ones. And then we charge a cleaning fee, or if the property has a pool or other amenities, we might charge other fees like you had mentioned, or a higher service fee to kind of cover costs at the end of the day.
And what do you find the normal cleaning fee usually to be?
So for our property, the range is probably on an average of $55.
Okay. And is that your cost or what you charge?
That's what we charge the guest.
Okay.
And profit-wise is probably a $5 to $10 depending on property. Obviously, that's a 2 to 3 bedroom standard. We have our cleaning fees that go all the way up to $200. It just depends on if it's an executive home or just a normal apartment or single-family home.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that a lot of investors ask us that that's not an expense for them.
Right.
That is something that the guest is already paying.
It's a pass-through.
Pass-through, correct. Yeah, so I think a lot of investors believe that they have to be out that, but actually the guest is already paying it.
And the way we set it up on our monthly P&Ls is basically it's the investor's money. We're paying that cleaning service, but at the end of the day, they can use that on their tax return as money that they are paying out. So it ends up being a tax benefit, but they're never out of pocket anything for cleaning fees.
Do y'all keep the profit on the cleaning fee, or does your owners?
Currently, we keep the profit on the cleaning fee.
Okay, gotcha. All right, and then what about how do you choose locations? How have you figured out inside of a city like Lexington and stuff like that? How do you decide what are the best locations if somebody's going to go look for a property to do this with?
Yeah, let me add something about the cleaning too, because I think it's we get investors ask us all the time. They think that it's going to be more wear and tear on their property if they convert it to a short term. But actually, with our cleaners in there every other day or 2 or 3 times a week, they're going in, they're keeping them spotless. And if they see something on the wall, then they're taking a magic eraser and they're getting that off the wall. Versus a long term, some investors don't even walk them even yearly or twice a year. So they're actually staying cleaner and nicer, more immaculate by having them short term.
Yeah, because you have no idea what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't go in there for a year, or you've got a tenant in there for 1 or 2 or 3 years, and then you walk in, it looks like a different house.
Yeah, oh, totally. I think they stay in much better shape. They almost look still brand new after so many years. That part is definitely a pro between a short-term and a long-term rental.
And as for short-term, it's survival of the fittest. So basically, the life expectancy and the success of a short-term rental is based on reviews. It's based on the amenities offered. It's based on the photography and the marketing remarks. It's just like if you were going on to Amazon and to buy a new hairdryer or something, you're doing all of this research prior. These are what guests are doing at the same time. So they're really looking for a unique property that is having all of these high standards. Most of the properties from a short-term perspective are nicer than most people's house. Just because from a cleaning service, you're making sure the lawn is mowed every 7 days. You're making sure trash is picked up and et cetera. So, it's much easier.
So, going back to locating and securing a property, we're always going to start with a property in our city where it's going to be location. Obviously, that goes back in any real estate deal. But if it's around hospitals, if it's around where they hold conferences and meetings, and for us, it's our downtown. So as close as you can get to the city center as possible, or the university as possible. That's going to give you the biggest return. You're going to get more nightly bookings. Or a local attraction. For instance, we just renovated a 200-year-old farmhouse. That's more of a destination stay for somebody traveling, but that property is also staying booked. So we take a look at why they're coming or what purpose the property is going to serve. That's the first question you need to ask.
And making sure, too, that at the end of the day, if for some reason the numbers don't work or the market changes or the city that you're investing in puts these rules and regulations that make short-term rental impossible or hard, and your cash flow isn't what you need, that it is actually a great long-term rental as well. So run those numbers on.
Run the numbers both ways.
Yes. And then at the end of the day, which one works best for you?
It'll always be a good investment. If we recommend it as an Airbnb, it's always going to be a good investment either way if it falls back to traditional.
Oh, that's smart. That's some extra security in there also. What about laws? I noticed in some neighborhoods, you got to be real careful because, they're starting to outlaw the fact that you could even do an Airbnb or VRBO in the neighborhoods. What are you finding there?
So actually, that's funny, Linda, because that here has just started to come up, and they just had a city council meeting like 2 weeks ago. And actually, Josh and Heath were vocal at the meeting because they're pretty much the go-to people here for Airbnbs. All of our local news channels interviewed them the next day. The newspaper was reaching out to them to do articles because it's starting to be like a topic here.
Very contentious debate.
Yeah, it is very contentious. I'll let you talk about it.
And I think it's an interesting fact. It's one of those things where at the end of the day, it's an education and a communication issue. A lot of people are saying they're not paying taxes. Well, in reality, that's incorrect. If you're using the Airbnb platform in our market, all taxes are being paid. B, they're saying, okay, we're removing the neighbor from the neighborhood. But if you look at the statistics on the people that are traveling into these cities and staying in these Airbnb rentals or vacation rentals or whatever platform's being used, there are people that are traveling a multitude of times. So they're creating an experience or a legacy to where in 10, 15 years they're bringing their grandchildren or their children back. They're traveling for work. They're relocating for jobs or potential of a lifestyle change. Life happens all the time. So these are actually, in theory, somewhat of a new neighbor. And they're also promoting and using their dollars to go back into the local economy. Instead of staying in a hotel room where you go to your conference and you come back and then you watch some TV at the end of the day and you just veg out and get room service, you're staying in a place, you're going out, you're experiencing the local life, you're shopping, you're spending money into a city, and then you're going back and sharing your experience. For us, our motto is live like a local. Our name is the Kentucky Life, so we're truly promoting that lifestyle. All of our properties have a house manual, and within those we have local recommendations on where to eat, shop, where to go, do whatever. That way they're truly getting this 5-star hospitality experience that at the end of the day they can turn this book, pull out some flyers, and they're acting like they're truly living like a Lexingtonian in our sense.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So how did it go? Has there been a vote yet, or is it going to be something to keep coming back up?
No, there's not been a vote yet. They're passing multiple ideas around. They've kind of looked at about 15 to 20 different markets, pulled a bunch of different random statistics or rules or regulations, and trying to throw it in there. Luckily for us, our city council has been very opposed to strict regulations. A lot of them actually travel with short-term rental, or they personally own. So they've kind of seen how the city, for instance, our city of Lexington has a very short lodging experience. So we have a shortage of hotels and motels. We have a shortage of bed and breakfast that we're growing on average 30 units per quarter since 2016. And our properties that we currently manage are staying 85% booked or higher on average. On the slower months, they're probably staying around 70 to 75. So there's clearly a need. So the things that they're really looking at is making it a win-win on regulations or adding permits and fees like that, which I'm totally for, because that's going to keep the quality up and it's going to keep a great name. Things that I don't necessarily agree with are things that are putting regulations or stipulations on the amount of nights someone can book. So, for example, they're trying to say that you can only have one reservation per week. But most, on average, people stay 2 to 3 nights. That totally cuts out 5 to 6 nights a week. How's that going to be profitable for someone?
Yeah, they tried that recently in San Diego. We have a beach house there, and we don't rent it out, but we paid attention to what was going on, and I think it got voted down because it would just absolutely have killed the beach market, to have them have to stay so long. That would have just been nuts.
I think it is a fear of the neighbors. They don't want the Marriotts of the world moving in next door and running these corporations. But I think it comes down to educating, and that's what we've been doing, is trying to educate our community that these are just entrepreneurs. That's their neighbors still that are opening up their Airbnbs in their homes for people to come in and experience the city. It's not the Marriotts of the world. And in fact, even in Dana's situation, she went in and she brought a property that needed a lot of work that was actually an eyesore for the neighborhood. She's going in, putting all this work into it. It's going to increase the value of all her neighbors' homes. So this is a benefit that these people are purchasing, and these investors are purchasing these properties, to rent them out as Airbnb.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a neighbor actually come over to me on the street of this one, and just in probably 60 days, I guess, will be from start to finish. We will, because I already got a subject to appraisal for completion, we will have raised the property value from $210 to $265.
Oh, wow.
And for the neighbors, I mean, when they were saying, are you renting it or what are you doing, and one of them was kind of a little bit, like, well, will different people be in there every single night? I'm like, well, the great news for you is you probably want to have your house reappraised after this is done, because we just helped increase everybody's property values.
And the great thing about that too is if someone comes and stays at one of these properties, let's take Dana's, for example, and they're a doctor that's getting ready to apply for the University of Kentucky, and the experience that they receive on staying at her property is above, that they're taking that job instead of a different market, and they love the street that Dana's on, and there's a for sale sign 4 houses down. They're willing to pay that, and they're walking into a property where even if it needs some work, they know what they can create.
Yeah, for sure. How you had mentioned stats from stays from 2016. I thought you said 1,500. To 27,000 in 17.
Yeah.
And
so
40,000. Where'd you get those numbers? How did you track that?
That's been generated from the platform itself.
Wow.
With the booking. So this year we're expecting in 2019 that it's going to go up to 80,000. So that it's growing substantially. So this is
literally double.
It is. Yeah, it's insane. So.
How many properties does that represent that does Airbnb and VRBO?
So currently in our market of Lexington, there's a little over 700 properties. And just to kind of do comparison-wise, the city of Louisville, which is probably about an hour and a half away from the city of Lexington, has over 3,000. Obviously, population-wise, there's a huge difference, but there's still a lot of room to catch up. Our state capital, the city of Frankfurt, is right in the middle of both of those cities. There's less than 100 on the market. Wow. We have a property that an investor purchased at an insane deal. They went in, rehabbed the property, rented it out long-term, both sides. It's a duplex for a year to get their cash back. We've since renovated it to short-term rental on both sides, and they're grossing 3 times the amount than what they were originally as a long-term rental.
Wow.
Yeah, and their property will be in so much better condition when they do anything
100%.
else with it. Wow.
100%.
That's amazing. So
That
how many of those 700 properties do you guys manage?
So currently, we just launched this division the end of last year. I am managing 30, and we have about 30 to 40 currently in the works right now.
Wow.
A lot of our investors that we're currently working with are looking for properties that are great deals and wanting to basically rehab, go in and either demolish, tear down, and rebuild, or go in that has something that has character and completely transform the property compared to going into a turnkey unit.
Awesome. So have you ever had property that you thought would be a great Airbnb or VRBO and it wasn't?
So it's interesting you say that. We have one property that we currently manage that is very unique, totally different from anything in this market. It's very mid-century modern. And the life expectancy, like I said earlier, is based on reviews and everything. But I like to tell people from 30 to 120 days, depending on when you put the property on the market, depending on price, it takes that property to take off with algorithms and et cetera, reviews, 30 to 120 days before your property really gains momentum and you can see your return. None of the properties that we're currently managing are booking less than 50%. Our average market is 54 to 56% here in the city of Lexington, and all of them are overperforming that average number.
Wow. And that's from the very get-go? 50%?
From the very get-go, yep.
Yeah, because we just noticed we were kind of we got 12 more VRBOs that we're about to build in Branson, and we were trying to do the analysis and figure out what size properties. And we had some 6-bedrooms, and we were kind of thinking, man, those took a while. But when we really looked at it, they almost take a year to get a true following of people that come back to them over and over again.
Correct.
So because of that, we're going to go ahead and probably build some bigger ones. And we weren't going to do that until we really watched the trend. And the trend said, look, it takes some of them almost a year. And once they get that following, those people keep coming back and coming back and coming back to the same property.
Go ahead.
Do y'all Airbnb those or just VRBO or both?
We do them all. HomeAway, Airbnb,
all of it,
yeah, all of them. But to be honest with you, our property still the biggest pull is VRBO for us. Airbnb is getting better, but again, we probably got the older generation where you guys maybe have the millennials, but we have the older generation, and that's just what they're used to, and that's what they go to.
And I think too, what we have found, properties that have hosts less than 5 people take it's a shorter amount of time for them to take off. Anything that I consider an executive style, so 5 people plus that it can host, is going to take closer to that 120-day mark or a little bit longer, just because it's more of an executive style. That's larger groups that's most likely going to be staying. They're going to be staying for longer periods of time. Multiple families, friends, however that might be. Those smaller properties are people that are booking those one nights on a random Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So you're getting a higher return in your reviews, and you're getting a lot more traction a lot quicker.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense to know your market, because based on our demographic, bigger cabins are going to do better because you bring in grandma and grandpa and all the cousins and everybody else. So we're even noticing like double bunk beds in some of the bedrooms. Whereas your demographics, probably different people, maybe a couple coming, or maybe one family with maybe one small child or whatever. So that's real important for anybody who's thinking about this to pay attention to those. So do you have any, we're about out of time here. I could go on forever. You guys are so amazing. Do you have anything that if somebody's out there and they're thinking, man, I want to do this? 2 ways. One, if they want to do it themselves, is there just kind of a little real quick check thing they might think about? Or if they want to go look for these type of investors in their real estate business, either way or both ways, if you want to answer those.
So one thing I would like to say is I joke all the time, and it's really hard for my personality, that in short-term rental, it's a thankless business. Your life is your hospitality. You're there at someone's beck and service, or beck and call. If the internet goes out at 10 o'clock at night compared to your normal tenant, you're having to troubleshoot and get that, because if they're checking out the next day and they're there for a work trip, they're going to give you a lower rating because you couldn't resolve their issue.
Right.
I mean, I joked the other day, I took a broom and a dustpan to a guest at 9 o'clock at night because she just wouldn't let something go. But I ended up getting a 5-star review. She's already booked another time and said it was her best Airbnb or short-term rental experience that she's ever had. Wow. So if anyone's going to do it and they're going to self-manage, take a deep breath, relax, find ways that are going to be unique to the property and to your city. Add things that you enjoy. You know, be that local expert, just like you were if you're a realtor, to promote your city and create an experience that is basically you're their
tour guide.
Yeah, I was going to say you're basically creating the experience for them. Communication is up front. If you have a random driveway that has a huge pothole in it, make sure that you're being upfront and honest on your actual listing, on all of your communication that you're sending, so they're not coming in at 10 o'clock at night on 2 wheels, hit that pothole, blow a tire, and then they've started out that experience negatively.
Yeah, and I think it's about when they initially decide if they're going to go the short-term route, they have to know that the expectations are different. Like Heath said, if a guest calls and says the AC is out, on the traditional side, you may be able to wait until the next day, generally, but with short-term, you have hours to get there. You want to get there as soon as possible because they might be staying for one night. And then just managing expectations and systems in place where if something happens, you know what to do. Because that's the biggest part that we offer even as a management company is we have the systems in place for all of the things that could go wrong, because it will. You have to know that when you start bringing people into your Airbnb that things are going to go wrong. People have all kinds of expectations that you have no clue about before they stay with you.
I mean, we had somebody the other day that said the tap water tasted nasty, and the brand new fridge that has a water dispenser on the front of it took too long to fill a glass of water up. So they suggest to make it even a better experience was to have a Brita filter pitcher in the fridge. And that would have been an excellent experience for them.
That's funny. That is you're so right about all that, though. It's so true.
And too, that you need to know as an investor going into it, you don't have to deck these properties out. You have to remove yourself because you want to go in and make them nice, but you also want to be thinking as an investor, you're looking at the money you're going to put into it versus the money you're going to get back out of it. So knowing the linens to use, where to shop, how to buy in bulk for the furniture, that's all really important before you say, hey, I'm going to go invest in Airbnb. Yeah. Because you have to know all that before you go in. Your linens, your silverware, everything, the upfront cost. And it doesn't have to be the top of the line. It just has to be things that work.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, and they've had to reel me back in, as you can imagine, numerous times. But they are going to share, and we can put in our show notes just like a little short version of the top-rated mattresses, the top-rated comforters, like a couple of those things just for any listeners that want to, because it's like you click on the link to Amazon and it's a really easy thing.
And it's hilarious. I get guests all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, this was the best sleep I've had in years. Yes. Like, where did you get this mattress? And I feel a little guilty on sending them the link because of the cost. But at the same time, it's meeting the needs and serving the expectations. So why not?
Yeah, I've had that happen. I had a lady track me down. It's like, my husband never sleeps. He's got to know, where did you get the sheets and where did you get the mattress? Of course, they didn't want to see my prices because I'm kind of like Dana. Even wholesale, for a while, I was spending over $120 wholesale price on sheets. I stopped that. I did stop that because, I didn't know which cabin I was ever going to be stuck in, and I didn't want to stay in a cabin. I didn't want to stay in a cabin that I didn't like the sheets. But we've learned.
She's like Oprah. Linda's like, you get the best sheets and you get the best sheets.
But I have learned how to get quality, like you guys said, at a price that's reasonable without, breaking the bank. So, that's awesome.
Share those, 'cause for me personally, with this being the first one, it has been so helpful because it is very easy to get on Amazon and before you know it, you're $50,000 deep in furnishings and then it's not profitable.
Yeah. Also, we'll put in the show notes, we'll put my link to our vacation rentals, so you guys can go online and take a look at them. And then also, If you guys want to put y'all's link on there so they can go and look at your vacation rentals and kind of just see what you're talking about, what they look like and how real the pictures are, that would be great. So we'll put both those in the show notes. So,
perfect. I love that.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys. This has been amazing. I could ask you a million more questions selfishly myself.
We'll have part two.
So remember, if you have a question, submit it to info@lindamckissick.com or reach out to us at Everything Life in Real Estate. And we'd love to have your questions or topics that you're interested in hearing us talk about. And remember, any opportunity or situation or challenge that you have that you'd like for Dana and I to help you with, just submit your name to us at info@lindamckissick.com. And be sure and give us a brief description of what it is you would like our help with, and as much detail as you can give us about you and your business is going to allow us to help you answer the questions that you have even better. So I just want to say thanks for joining us today. So thank you, Josh and Heath, and thank you, Dana. I'll see you at the end of the week to go to London.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Appreciate it. Awesome. That was so good.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.